Joining us tonight, John Solomon, opinion contributor for The Hill. John, award-winning investigative journalist. He's worked over the last 3 decades at publications including The Washington Post, The Associated Press, The Washington Times, and of course, The Hill. Good to see you.
Good to be with you, Lou.
Appreciate you being here. Let's turn first to just the level of rhetoric and acidic propaganda. The Dems are on a full-blown propaganda blitz. What do you make of it?
Well, I think they're a little bit ahead of the facts, right? We don't have all the facts yet, but let's take into account some of the things that we do know. When we started this investigation, we were in a different football stadium, right? There was a stadium and the goal line was going to be, was there collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia? And we're not even playing in that stadium now. We're in some campaign finance stadium 3 or 4 streets down. And so I think that's the first thing, that so far there's still no collusion. That was the primary reason we had Bob Mueller's investigation. I think secondly, prosecutors have tried a case like this once before and they failed miserably. They did this against John Edwards. They claimed he took some donor money and then used it to pay off or to hide an affair, and that he was acquitted on one charge and the jury deadlocked on the other. And the overwhelming message from the jurors was they considered it a private matter, just like what President Trump said this morning. These payments were a private transaction. So I think we have to take all that into account, take a deep breath, step back, and wait for the rest of the facts before we pass judgment.
You and I both know that the Dems are not passing judgment. They're carrying out a propaganda campaign, a vicious, baseless political attack on a sitting president, and their intent is to subvert his presidency and his administration, right?
Well, keep in mind that the entire Russia investigation began with a Democratic campaign. Hillary Clinton, the Democratic Party, paying for the Steele dossier and then walking it into the FBI. And if we're going to talk about campaign finance violations, right, this is one of the things that's at issue with Trump and the payments. Let's take a look at the one violation we know for sure occurred. The Clinton campaign, the Democratic National Committee, did not properly identify the payments to Fusion GPS. They hid them. They disguised them as legal payments when they were political opposition research. Where's that prosecution? Where's the media's interest even in those facts? You don't hear it ever talked about.
It would, it seems, be worthy of a footnote somewhere in the national left-wing media that not only that, but that President Obama's campaign had to pay a $375,000 fine for violating precisely the same laws that are repaired to by the hysterical left in this country. And they don't do that. And secondly, there was no discussion then, nor should there be now, of prison sentencing. It is a matter of restitution in precedent and in point of fact. This is, as the president claimed and as you pointed out, a private matter. Let's turn to one part of that, though, and that was the decision by Rosenstein to listen to Senator Mark Warner when he called for a special counsel. At that point, surely he knew what FBI director, fired FBI director in May of 2017, also knew and had known since October. And that is that dossier, authored by Christopher Steele, the former MI6 agent, was in fact a paid-for product from the left, and millions of dollars had changed hands to support it. Yet he still went ahead, knowing that it's a Democrat calling for the special counsel, it's a democratically funded document, and that in point of fact, he surely had to be able, given his immense intellect and gifts, that they had betrayed the FISA court system by using such a document as a foundation for warrants against a sitting president.
You know, if you read most of the papers, not The Hill, though, good, The Hill had this, but most of the papers over the weekend made not a mention of what I thought was a very important event. James Comey couldn't remember a lot during his testimony on Friday, but the one thing he did remember was that at the moment they used the Steele dossier to submit for a FISA application, he knew it was unverified, even though the law says you can't use unverified evidence before a FISA court. That was such a major omission, but you couldn't find it anywhere in the newspapers this weekend, which I think goes to that double standard that everybody complains about in the media today. Yeah. But let's take a look at Rosenstein for 1 second.
Let me interject just for a moment before you do that and point out the time frame we're talking about. That James Comey acknowledged in that testimony, as we saw in the transcript, as you reported in the Hill, that he knew In early October, that is before the end of that month, had moved ahead. He knew all that there was to know about that dossier, which was that's important, and that is that it was unverified and likely unverifiable. And you were about to say about Rod Rosenstein.
Well, remember when Rod Rosenstein approves the special prosecutor, he expands the case beyond Russia to the possibility that the President of the United States engaged in obstruction by asking James Comey to go easy on Mike Flynn. Well, let's take a look at this, and let's take a look at something Barack Obama did a few years earlier. A few years earlier, during the Clinton email investigation, Barack Obama made a statement that he didn't think Hillary Clinton had committed any crimes, had no intent. This is before the FBI made its determination. No one was crying obstruction then, but the same Justice Department suddenly finds in an almost identical circumstance, an offhand remark, the evidence of obstruction. When people look at this, I hear lots of complaints. I see a double standard when it comes to the Clintons and Obama and Trump, and I think these sort of anecdotes build into that impression that people have.
It's an impression, but the facts are that the top 7 people in the FBI have moved on and were moved on as a result of their complicity in acts of outright political corruption, and in several instances specifically in an attempt to subvert this presidency, yet not one of them right now is facing criminal charges. There has been a criminal referral, but not criminal charges.
That's right, and the wheels of justice seem to be turning slow on that front.
Well, there's also another way of saying that, is that the Dems have been successful against somewhat either naive or recalcitrant Republicans, and particularly the leadership of the House, of slow rolling the entire process and running out the clock, and only weeks in which to do so before they have control of the House.
Yeah, that's a big concern that Republicans particularly have in the House. But these investigations are going to live on. I'm pretty certain that Senate Judiciary, Senate Finance, and the Inspector General of the Justice Department are still going to dig into the wrongdoing that's inherent in the FBI's conduct in this case. And that's where we need to keep our reporting focused on.
John Solomon, we appreciate you focusing your reporting. Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir.